for this live broadcast recording of Hey Girl Hey.
Hey Girl Hey.
So welcome to the Kelly Strayhorn Theater. My name is Orlana Darkins Drury. We are so glad that you are in our theater space, or lobby space. Our neighborhood happy hour kicked off in June, and we were supposed to just do it for 3 months, and here we are, it's November. But every happy hour, what makes it so cool is that every month we feature something a little different. So we might have an author, we might have an interview an activist. So every happy hour is a little different. So today we are excited because it's the first time we're doing a live broadcast with 3 ladies who's come together to form a podcast called Hey Girl Hey. So, Hey Girl Hey is an entertainment podcast that you can hear weekly through Urban Media Today. The show provides insight, humor on celebrity news, current events from a chick's point of view, that's what the bio says, and you can catch them on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud under Urban Media Today, Anchor FM, and urbanmediatoday.com. So you have no excuse not to find this show. Also, speaking of our neighborhood happy hour, our last one for this year is December 19th. And this one is going to be our holiday party and bazaar. So we'll have a chance to do some shopping and some other little surprises going to happen for the last one. So December 19th, 5 to 7, make sure you're all here. So I'm going to introduce our guest for today. Oh, I should warn you about this show.
Yes, thank you.
Are we all adults here? That is good.
Yes.
They're a little edgy, just a little. They are funny, but I didn't want you to be like, oh my gosh. So just little shock value. So you've been warned. So did you guys want to come up?
Sure.
So they know who I'm talking about? Let's give them a hand. So just so you know, they gave me extensive bios. I've kind of shortened them so we have time for the podcast. So we have LaShawn Tipton.
Yes.
She is known as the Chatter Chick.
You'll know why.
She's a Pittsburgh native and Carlo University graduate. She received her BA in communications. LaShawn is mostly known for her personality and off-the-wall sense of humor, which awarded her the title of funniest in her class. I know, you're so, what a great honor. She is the CEO of LaShawn Tipton Consulting, doing business as the Chatter Chick. She's an event planner, media, marketer, and motivational speaker. LaShawn Tipton. The Chatter Chick. Then we have Jerry Tipton, yes, they're related, the millennial chick. And she says everyone calls her Jer, so we'll call her Jer.
Hey,
She grew up in South Oakland and Hazelwood neighborhoods. She went to Clarion University for communications. While she was there, she was the host of her own radio show, and she was an opinion column writer for the school newspaper. After Clarion, she obtained her master's degree in journalism from Point Park University, where she also had her own radio show and was an online editor for their school newspaper. Now, she's really busy. She holds down like several jobs. I didn't have time to list them all, but to being a freelance writer for Hazelwood's local newspaper, and she's a producer or operator for Intercom. So very impressive.
Nice.
And then we have Kiki Brown, who is the radio chick.
Yeah.
Known to our audience as the pretty kitty on your radio, Kiki Brown is a radio veteran for close to 25 years. Oh, that's impressive. She started her career as an intern at the original 106 Jams WAMO radio in the mid-90s. She began her journey in promotions as a part of the street team, which I was a part of that life. Yeah. Then moving on up to where she became a on-air personality. She departed in 2007 And she moved to Baltimore, where she was an on-air personality for 92Q Jams there. She was there for 8 years. She came back, and now she is an on-air personality for 107.3 The Beat.
Yes.
Which is a new old school radio station for anyone who doesn't know that. So, ladies and gentlemen, Kiki. Very good. So, I'm going to turn it over to Hey Girl Hey. I feel like I need to do that. Hey Girl Hey.
Hi everybody.
Hey.
So, as Rolanda said, we're going to start our podcast. And we're going to let our engineer on site know when we're ready to go. You ready? Okay. Here we go. Hey girl, hey! Hey girl, hey podcast, Urban Media. Today we are live.
Today.
We are live. Am I live?
No.
Because I had a couple sips, so I'm going to be amplified.
That's what's up.
Okay. She said, can I get a drink?
Oh, you need another one, please.
No, not free. Okay. I am your radio chick, Kiki Brown.
And I am the chatter chick, Sean Tipton.
And I'm the millennial chick, Jerry Tipton.
This is the Hey Girl Hey podcast. You can hear us on urbanmediatoday.com, Spotify. Find us on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, and Anchor FM. Did I hit all of them?
Tune in.
Tune in. Look at y'all want to do it. Y'all want to do it. So we're here live at the legendary, the iconic Kelly Strayhorn Theater. Is this the first time you guys have been here? You've been here before.
I was here when I was a kid.
Okay.
I wasn't too long because I'm not that old.
Okay. But this is your first time.
This is my first time here.
Okay. And we're just in the foyer. That's a word, right?
It sure
The
is.
foyer.
You're right. So
We're here in the foyer. I'm as smart.
You is smart. You is kind. And you is important.
I am. So this is the first time I've actually hosted an event here.
All right.
I did. I hosted an
First time
event
for everyone.
a long time ago. It was a dance competition. So yeah, that was fun. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but no, they have an amazing program here. It's been here, I don't know, but 150, 20,000 years. You guys have been here for a long
For a
time.
long time, right?
Yeah, this is a landmark. If you're listening on live and you want to visit Pittsburgh, please make sure the Kelly Strayhorn Theater is one of these stops.
Definitely.
Outside of the originals, Pamela's, and
those landmarks. Okay.
yeah, those other landmarks too. And then like the corner Jimmy Station, they're still iconic. Jimmy Stations.
Oh, the Jimmy
They're
Station.
iconic. Shout out to the executive director, Miss Janera Solomon,
Thank you.
and Mrs. Orlana Darkins Drury.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us today. So those of you who are new to the show, please know we get ratchet.
Not me, because I'm a woman of a certain age.
And please, I need the one person in the audience to take count how many times she says, I am a woman of a certain age.
She ain't gonna let you forget.
It's usually what, 10?
10 about the first
About
15
10.
Let's
minutes.
get started, ladies. Let's get started.
Right. So we have quarter segments. Shout out to Miss Kelly, who's our engineer. We have quarter segments. Every 15 minutes, we talk about something different. So here's our first lead-in, and we have a guest for this lead-in.
We do have a guest.
Can you introduce your guest? Miss,
This
I'm gonna take a sip
is,
right here.
take a sip. This is a very, very good friend of mine, one of my, very good lady. This is one of my best friends. He was my co-host on my old radio show when I was at Point Park, the tip of an hour. And he's super funny. He does comedy, and he'll make you laugh. I just want to give it up to Delonte Winters.
Hey, Delonte! Yeah, you gonna need that drink. We got something playing, brother.
Hold up.
We got something playing.
Don't like that too much on that. Okay.
You want to just stand? You want to just stand? I'm scared. Can you just stand? Just stand.
Go back.
Stand for the flag. Stand for the flag. Stand for the flag. Just stand for the flag. I need
You guys will save. I can do
Okay,
that.
they don't even send you back to that right there.
That's a lot of that.
That's a lot of that. They can't even see
I
us.
said, how
No, just stand up. Just stand up.
Boy, did she come off that stage, boy.
Just to let you guys know, this is the first time we are live in a different location outside of our podcast studios.
I
Delonte.
want to apologize for my back toward you guys. It's a lot. I apologize.
Let's
Delonte, you're a podcaster, you're a comedian, bus driver, usher, what else?
Uber
Security
driver.
guard,
Lemonade.
Uber driver,
A father.
a father.
There you
First off,
go. There you go.
Okay.
Well, let's just get down to this.
No, I'm glad you mentioned father.
Yes, that's not no daddy, no baby's dad.
You don't smash dash.
I'm too big.
I didn't want to say
She
it.
let you be trying to get away.
I'll breathe and leave, but I.
So what's the lead in here, Jerry?
So, Delonte, you ready to hear this?
This is
Sure.
breaking news.
This is breaking news. So, are you ready for the first male birth control?
What?
First
First male birth control.
conception that will stop you from making babies.
That's me condoms.
No, this is different.
Apparently, they
There's a
don't
new
want
way.
With the it's like a switch, right?
No. A switch?
to. No.
It's like a surgical switch.
No.
We wish.
Should we explain to Delonte the newest development
First, please, yes.
to stop our population?
All right.
You want to tell? You want to tell? Go ahead.
So, the New York Post, they are reporting there is now a government-funded biomedical
Pay attention, pay
research
attention.
agency.
Look at her when she's talking to you.
Has successfully completed a clinical trial on an injectable male contraceptive.
Injectable.
So, the birth control method, which lasts about 13 years, involves injecting a polymer.
The
Stress.
Wait, don't try it.
I'm just
Don't
like,
try and read the terminology.
all right. Anyway, it's good for 13 years and they inject it inside you.
Boom. You say what?
What do you think about that?
Because you're a millennial.
Why did you say no? Why did you say no? You said no because of the pain, because of the process,
No,
right?
not at all.
Why did you say no?
First off, it's like, it's just like when you neuter a dog, a male dog.
Mm.
Let's say I got a bully. His name is Champ, and I neuter Champ. So Champ's balls is clipped. He's not Champ anymore. He's Chump.
He's still champ. Don't do
His
that.
name is Chump.
He is not.
It is. The reason why I'm not for it is because it's like I come from a big family,
Yeah.
and I want a big family. You know, yeah, believe it or not, we're
Is anybody else related to them? Because
I got my cousin over here. Hey, girl. He is too. How you doing?
Okay. Wait, y'all related to him too?
Yeah.
Oh,
Guys, right there, that's my cousin. Hey, guys.
That's my great uncle.
Lord. Go ahead. Okay. Oh, Lord. Okay.
All right, let's get back to the
I just don't
question.
feel like what do you need it for, you know?
It's a conversation.
To stop from smashing and dashing, you know,
It's
these
called
is-
pull out.
You know,
That don't work
everybody knows
either.
their concepts.
This is a millennial thing. This is
Literally, my
why.
daddy said he pulled out, and here we are.
I'm
You know?
31 too right now.
Listen.
I feel like it's no, not at all. Not even about the pain because there's men out there who have their penis pierced. So getting a shot is nothing.
Every man was like,
Right, I know some of y'all are virgin right now, but when we go to clinics and we get our tested, you know, they stick a pipe cleaner in the hole. So that should be nothing to get the shot in.
Bro.
But I wouldn't dare, no. I don't think that is another way to control population, which, you know, the government is
13
doing.
years.
No.
You can do whatever. Now, here's my debate on this. Here's my debate
Is there a
on this.
rush policy right now? Speed up.
And you can see why I'm feeling attention. I gotta sit back on these subjects.
Because I'm just saying,
Turn my mic off.
what if I get the shot and I'm just running through them? But I don't
I'm
do
just
that.
running
I
through
don't
them.
do that. Just running through them.
Okay, James Conner, go ahead. He's a running back.
Okay, I was
And I find the
I
right
thought
one.
you
did.
did personal business. I was thinking you put
And I
on.
found the right one.
Okay, go ahead.
And I do want to trap her. Because there are men out here that do trap. I'm sorry.
There are
Yes.
plenty of
No, ain't no my Lord. No, I said that. There are men that do trap.
Okay.
So
There are
what if
women too?
yeah, a lot. Well, what if
Wait,
I really
wait.
want a family with this one woman? And I can't have because I'm still on my 13 years.
That was my question as well, because I wanted to know if you met the right one and say you're 5 years into the shot.
It's like, I love you, baby, but I'm shooting leg, so.
Yeah, but can you reverse it? So I think there's more into the study. I also believe that, I know that they've studied 303 candidates for this. It is ready to go. It's ready. But I think it is a
Is there any big out here that would do it?
Show of hands. Maybe
Exactly.
maybe I should.
I'm gonna take a sip. There's no
hands. Yay, if you would.
No hands go right now to do that.
Yay, if you would. Yay.
Sir, you have any kids? You have any kids? You have a what?
I have one.
One? And how much joy does your child bring you?
Tons.
So how would you feel if you wanted another? That's like double pleasure, double the fun, right?
Yeah.
So you want another one?
Theoretically.
But you can't, yeah, expensive though, but you can't because
Exactly.
you got that,
Yeah.
So you wouldn't
the
do
government fluid in you.
that. Okay.
Do you understand?
No, I totally get it.
Yeah.
But here's where I am with it. So there are some, and we're at the 5-minute mark, Ms. Carey. Here, so you get the shot, and there are some immature young men out here who think, because I got the shot, I can pretty much run up in and out of anybody that I want to. Raw dogging it.
Wow.
Dumbass is not thinking, oh wait, STD! Oh! So I'm concerned that the STD rate is going to increase.
It's going to.
Because we're not paying attention to the fact that this is only to prevent
Pregnancy.
babies. KID, not HIV. Or STD. Any other acronyms I need to know?
I think
So
I
this
know.
is, but 303 men have done this.
Wow.
And I guarantee.
And no side effects, which I'm not happy about.
They're
We can
all
take-
hugs. I guarantee you, they're all hugs.
Ooh,
They're
speaking
all
of.
hugs. Believe it or not, yes.
Speaking of those, so in the last 5 minutes, we're going to talk about this. The lead-in is hoes versus heroes. Here's the thing. Anybody know who Lori Harvey is? Nobody knows who Lori. One person. All right. Lori Harvey is Steve Harvey's stepdaughter, Marjorie Harvey's daughter. How do you know her? Exactly. So, she has been rumored to now be dating, if that's even right, if I said that grammatically correct, I don't know. I've had something to drink. I've been drinking. So, she's been rumored to have been dating Future. She does not do
Who
that.
wasn't a future with all this?
But now she's dating Future. But see, because she has been rumored to have been dating these male celebrities like Trey Songz,
It's a come up.
Diddy. Wait. Okay, I get that. But see how we immediately attack her or label her, and sometimes it's more women than men that label her as a hoe. When she's single, she has no kids, she's doing the same thing that Future is doing, but Future is smashing and dashing. Future is planting seeds, increasing the population. He needs a shot. He's a farmer. So why is there a double standard there?
Actually, they're all in, there's not a double standard.
There is not.
There's levels to it, but there's no double standard.
Why so? Why
A
do you think so?
hoe's a hoe, period.
Wow.
So wait. So would you say that Future was a hoe?
He's being hoish. She
She's
not dating. She's not.
How you know? What you mean? You know her?
I don't know her, but I'm listening to what you got to say.
No, see, what you have to understand, I'm a woman of a certain age.
Two.
There she goes.
Right.
I date, and I date a lot, I date often. That doesn't make me a hoe.
That's not. You're a hoe when you're sleeping with her.
But why do we call Lori Harvey a hoe? We don't know if she's sleeping with them. We just know she went out with them. So we immediately labeled her a hoe. Ladies, fellas, anybody agree with that? I mean,
Ladies, which one of you ladies are?
oh wait, what do you want to ask them?
Right.
Wait.
Which one of y'all is hoe?
I think that's what he wanted to ask.
Which one of you ladies are dating multiple men? That doesn't.
I don't think they were saying anything.
Exactly.
Wait a minute, I used to date.
And why is that wrong?
There's nothing wrong with that.
I'm raising my hand because I'm a man.
Why is that wrong?
Is that something?
That's not wrong. It's not wrong. If a man can do it, a woman can do
A
it.
man can do it. He's still considered a hoe.
You ain't gonna call no, you gonna call me hero. My ninja. That's exactly what you gonna do. You gonna give him the dime.
No,
My beloved.
Don't
Yes,
drink off my 40, no.
Wait, what?
Fam, you can't drink off my 40, no.
Really?
Honestly, me personally, anybody
But
else
you're
would know.
insinuating because she's dating, she's having sex with these multiple men.
That's what it is.
Dating
Yeah.
is dating. It's not that she's having sex with any of them.
Alright.
I don't want to be chauvinistic, but
You are.
If you gotta say but, sir, we're gonna cut you off. We appreciate your time. We're at the 1 minute mark. Every segment is 15 minutes. Thank you so much, Delonte. You ain't right. Get your drink. Get your damn drink. Listen, this is the first segment. When we come back, what's the lead in for the next segment? Because just in case you did not know, we have 15, well, you may know because I said it earlier. We have 15-minute segments, and we talk about different things, and some of them are from emails that you sent us later on in the show. We're addressing one of those emails, but for this particular one, this is something that this chick started last podcast.
Ooh, I love it.
And you, yeah. So, call them in projects. Anyway, we're going to break.
They are.
It's the Hey Girl Hey podcast on Urban Media today. Hey Girl Hey.
Hey.
All right, this is the Hey Girl Hey podcast on Urban Media today, live from the Kelly Strayhorn Theater. Let me just tell y'all, I may have had an ounce or a half. I don't know what the wine guy in the back is putting in the Chardonnay, but I'm hot. It's hot. This ain't even liquor. This is just, it's Chardonnay. I'm hot. Now, can I be a woman of a certain age now? Lord Jesus,
All what it is a flash food.
okay. It's a oh really? It's a oh really? You put me in the club? Okay.
I just listen, I don't sweat, I glisten. Thank you. All right, let's get started.
Anyway, so LaShawn, you started something.
I know.
You gotta listen to the last podcast. Or I forget which week it was, but we talked about women who dated startup guys. Ooh.
So the plan is,
And I think we have do we have a guest for this one as well?
yes, we do.
We have a guest for this one. He didn't even know he was talking about this
Right.
today. He's like, I got on my new suit.
Got church shoes
Got
on.
church shoes on. Go ahead and introduce your friend.
This is David A. Jones from David A. Jones. He's president and CEO of VA and Associates in Consulting. So, David, come on.
You need a fan? You might need a fan for this one. You might need a drink for this one. Okay, yeah, please don't move that.
Oh, Lord.
So LaShawn started something, David. So basically, we were talking about dating men and dating broke brothers and building them up, fixing their teeth, cutting off their Jerry curl,
Right.
taking away their acne, building their credit up.
That's a
Just for the
stepchild.
just for the next man, right?
That's a
Just for the next
stepchild.
That's a stepchild.
Claim him
So,
on your
Well,
taxes.
LaShawn said that what?
I feel as though it was a project. And that's what I call it, a project. I wasn't trying to be hasty or mean when I said it, but the reason I called it a project is because, and not putting my business all out there, I'm just saying.
She's a woman of
Yeah, I'm a woman of a certain age. So, what happens is, if someone, like I'm gonna probably get surgery, and I know you're looking at me and probably thinking she doesn't need it. But what happens is sometimes you meet people and they want to, bless you with some different things. So if I get blessed with, more perky breasts and maybe a flatter stomach from somebody who likes me or likes me a whole lot, that doesn't mean I'm going to marry him or he needs to marry me. So I would essentially be his arm candy or just a project. So I called the guys, when you fix them up and you get them ready for somebody else, and they leave you and they go to someone else. I said, well, just call it a project. That's all it is. It was just a project. And so one of the guys who do the radio show after us, Kevin Cameron, he says, well,
He was pissed.
he was like, well, maybe you shouldn't have called it a project. You should have had a male.
You know you gotta say it like Cameron said. No, I didn't understand. Sorry, go
It
ahead.
sure did. I didn't understand, Sean. You gave the teacher a call.
You know that Sean
Not said it, you know. So I brought my good friend David up here just to get, you know, your view on that. Would you call that a project? Now, he's a good friend of mine, and I don't know if he's going to.
I guess you say you better watch what you say.
Mm-hmm.
Watch what you, and you have some couple extra dollars to fund my project to get all.
Wait a
this
second,
done.
what?
As my friend.
You go fund me now?
I'm gonna do a GoFundMe page, and I'm gonna say that help me out. Get to
So
work.
basically, so the premise behind it was women who build these men up expect to be proposed to.
Yeah.
If I'm fixing you up,
Yeah.
if I'm fixing you up, I'm fixing your teeth. I got you some new glasses, got you a little, I fixed that beard. I gave you that little blue beard on your jacket, David. I made you, David. Wear my ring.
Well,
Well, I think the word project is a little,
You're offended.
certainly.
A Peter in the ball.
And so relationships don't have to be forever. And if you care about somebody, you want the best of them, even if you're not with them.
That's right, right.
okay.
I got
To the
one.
church. Amen. Praise them. Let them use them.
That's
So you always want the best for people,
right.
even if you're not with them forever.
Yeah.
So yeah, the project piece, that's a little hard, because I think most guys can get it together on their own.
Hold on, Miss Davis.
All right.
I will repeat
Well,
that.
shoot.
I will repeat that. I believe we can get it together, but we all help each other. That's what a relationship is a partnership.
Right.
So if you're my partner from 2018 to 2020, we do things together. And then if we don't move on to the next phase because of life or whatever, it's still okay.
I just don't want anybody reaping the benefits off of what I did.
So Jerry is the one that said she want to ring.
You know,
Just to let you know.
Actually, no, if I put you, made, well, can I say made you?
Yeah.
I guess you could say if I made you and I was there with you when you had nothing, I expect the ring because nobody else will want you when you had nothing.
You're
She
right.
was stellar. She was stellar. She was burning the car and lighting a cigarette. That was stellar.
I'm just saying, because I'm not
And
going to
her-
go to somebody.
But I think as you get older, you look at things differently.
Yeah.
You just look at relationships differently, you look at partnerships differently, and maybe that person gave you what you needed, maybe they didn't. And that makes you the person that you are today.
Right. I mean, I agree.
Do you agree?
But Larissa down the street, she put all her money and all her effort, all her stress into this man. And she helped him. And Lil Ray Ray kept going in and out of prison. You know, she was helping, she got him in the GED program.
So what was her motive though, right?
No, I mean, because she loved him. She loved him.
Right.
She loved him. And so, you know, she's like, if I show you, if I show you that I'm there. See, in a relationship, what I had learned was we're on a job interview. You're on a job interview. When you're dating. Hold on, you spoke. You're on a job interview, right? So you are trying to prove to, I don't want to say your employer, but your prospective husband, hopefully, that's a goal for a woman, most. That's some. Okay, sorry. She's like, don't put me in it. And we're trying to prove to you that we're the one. I'm there for you. I'm cleaning, I'm cooking, I'm making sure I'm handling the bills, I'm beating these kids' ass, I'm doing this, I'm doing what you, I'm trying to, I'm swerving it, I'm serving it, I'm doing everything that I need to do. And I'm telling you, sir, I need this job. I want this job. So what I'm doing is I'm helping you get your hair cut. I'm getting your tires rotated. I'm making sure, and I really mean literally. I'm taking you to the store to get your tires rotated. I'm not doing it myself. I'm making sure that when you fall, I'm holding you up. And we're doing it for a long time because you can't find out when you want to make a decision. If she's going to be the right person or not.
But isn't that reciprocal?
I know something! Okay?
It doesn't work both ways.
It does, absolutely. It does, yeah.
I mean,
And so somewhere along the line, we just figured it's not working, right?
Yeah.
We appreciate this opportunity, it's not working.
Well, then I
God
feel like
bless
I'm being
you.
used.
Live right.
You know,
But we're dealing with two different animals. You have a man that looks at a different perspective, this is why you're here, who looks at it differently. Like, well, this is our duty. Our duty, you know, this is, you're doing it because you're doing it out of the kindness of your heart. But a woman is an emotional creature.
Absolutely.
And so we're showing you our love. We let down our guard. We let you in our garden. We are letting you till our babies. We are letting you into our world. We are trusting you. And all we did was ask you to ask us. And what you did was you asked her. Listen to y'all Tyler Perry I'm here. No, seriously, this is somebody's story.
As an older gentleman,
Can you say a man of a certain age?
right, a man of a certain age, we're supposed to protect, we're supposed to nurture,
Yes,
right? And we're supposed to give.
yes,
And shield you from all the evils of the world.
Right.
Right? So all those things are happening simultaneously. You're doing your part, and I'm doing my part. And together we do great things. But when it's over, it's over. That's real. I think the bad thing is that people hold on to relationships way longer than we should.
Yeah.
Now, whether
Yes.
I put a ring on your finger or not, if I'm not happy, you'll be somebody with a ring.
Deon Cole said that. He said they gonna only be with you for this long. This is how long they were purposed to be with you. And when they hit that, they ain't going no further. You can't expect them to go no further. So you got to be like, it was nice knowing you. Thank you so much for this ride. I'm going to see you later. And I keep on climbing up. Y'all need to go watch that Netflix.
And hopefully we can still be friends, not enemies.
Yeah, but that ain't going to
I
happen.
mean, that was like, it can,
That's not-
grow, become a woman of a
No.
certain age.
You ain't going to mess up my credit. I'm talking about can we be friends?
Yeah, I mean, I get that, and maybe me saying that it was a project, because it is a project, that my terminology might have been wrong, but I essentially feel the way David feels. I mean, I think, yeah, we got that one. Because I feel you give and take in a relationship. So, all because, you know, he might have given me something, I gave him too. But I don't expect to reap a marriage proposal from it, you know. I mean, and I guess that's dating with a purpose.
Yeah,
You know, people date with
Doesn't
purpose,
everyone
but
have
not
one?
always.
Does everyone have a dating with a purpose? Does everyone date
But
with a
not
purpose?
all.
No. Okay.
Yeah, you're not out to just haphazardly dating. Everybody does things with a purpose, but it doesn't always turn out to be the way you think it's going to turn out to be. And that's okay, because then that project is done and going to another one.
But how many projects do you want to keep doing?
Stay out of the project.
That's the thing, and I don't want to keep doing multiple projects and it's not going to get anywhere. That's the issue I have.
Yeah, well, you know, it happens once you become a woman of a certain age.
Seven?
Yes.
Dang, this
Things happen, you know, and you learn. You don't become bitter. After
No,
that.
yeah,
I think
right.
at this age, when things happen with me and, you know, other people, I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And I'm like, go on and bless him, Lord. Bless him. And bless him with whoever he's going to be with. Because I know mine is coming. So I'm good with that. Like, go on and do you. It's okay. I'm not doing all that so he can give me a ring.
But I think that.
But don't you meet people where they are? Right?
No.
I mean, once the interview process goes, the dating and all the flowers and those things.
know.
Don't you meet people where they are? And don't you see them for who they are? When does that happen in a relationship?
And when do you go? When you see that's not what you want.
I'm just asking, right? So at some point, when the masks come off after the first couple of days and all those things, then you see people for who they are.
That's true.
When they have a rough day or a bad day, and you have a rough day and a bad day, and now the masks come off, and so now you are able to see, wow, this is really a life to be with that person.
Amen.
Maybe it works and maybe it doesn't.
Harry was looking up in the air like counting how many. It was 10 times that.
Yo, Ginger was like, I done paid your T-Mobile bill. I put money on your books.
She said, promising.
What's your love and your
Does a real man
return?
need all that, though? Which all those things you see.
That's the difference.
Does a real man need all that? Do you come to the table with something as well?
No. You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. I don't believe that we need to super serve. If all you're trying to do is to be loved, if it is conditional, if it is something that this person feels for you, as long as we are honest, two honest adults. And if you're saying to me, and I think we talked about this in the show, and we have 2 minutes, if you're saying to me, look, I don't want anything serious. I'm just trying to rebuild myself, because we're talking about projects here. I'm just trying to rebuild myself. I really do not, I don't need a mother, I have one.
Right.
I'm going to a credit counselor. I don't need you to help me build my credit. I just want you to love me.
Mhm.
Not every man can say that. Not every woman can say, look, I have daddy issues, and I just need somebody to take care of.
Wow.
I have issues going on with me. And I mean, I don't think these conversations only last in Tyler Perry movies. Like, they're not real. No one ever has these conversations. But if this was a situation that if these two adults, responsible adults, we're almost out of time, had these conversations, I think we would just totally not even have this topic. Because we need to be real and just say, look, I like to spend money on you. I want to build you because it makes me feel good. And I will be expecting a ring later.
Don't be mad when you build them.
No, you're not. You're talking to you. All right, so.
Don't be mad, Jerry.
And so at the end of the day, we all just want to be loved.
Yes.
We just want to be loved.
Okay. We'll end it like that. All right, so that's the second hymn. Thank you so much. Give it up for Miss May. So we're going to take a break, and the second break, the second half, actually, we're going to have an extension because we have a special guest in the house, and her name is Kimberly Fairley. And she is the founder of Beauty and Brokenness. And she's also an author, a public speaker, a host of a Christian television program on Cornerstone TV called Sister to Sister. And she's going to talk to us about some very important issues. So it's going to get serious. If you are sensitive, we're going to talk about some very sensitive information here. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. It's the Hey Girl Hey podcast on Urban Media today. So Kimberly, ready? Yes. Hey Girl Hey. It's the Hey Girl Hey podcast, Urban Media. Today, I'm your radio chick, Kiki Brown.
I am the millennial, as you all know.
And I am the chatter chick, LaShawn Tiffany.
She usually says,
No, I didn't finish.
the lady.
You was ready to go.
She usually drops bars when she introduces herself.
I am
I'm the lady.
I'll think of something next month.
You said that 2 weeks ago.
Yes,
You
you
do.
do.
Rapping is not for you. So we're gonna. Did you introduce yourself?
I did. I am the chatter chick. I did say that.
Everybody having a good time so far? We appreciate you all for having us. This is a special live edition, our first live edition. Happy 1 year anniversary, girls. Okay. So it's been 1 year.
Yes.
1 year
Inside
ago,
of,
this young lady pulled me aside. We met in the bar.
Well, that's
I
where
thought
we
we met in
had
church.
our first initial meeting. We met in church the first time, and I met at the bar after church. Yeah.
I mean, you know, preachers go to bars.
Communion.
Oh, it was okay. Yeah. So she pulled me to the side, and she was just like, I feel it in my spirit. God told me not to.
We was in church.
We were in church, and I think you just said, I want to meet with you, and we should just do a podcast.
Yeah, because you know what, I had wanted to do something. I was at a conference, and I'm talking to a group of people. I was introducing the person at the conference, and I think at the time, not to name drop, but she's a good friend of mine, Rose Rock, Chris Rock's mom. So I was talking, and I had said, I just dropped it, bam, right there. And so, I was talking to another guy. His name was Dr. Adwan Parr. I'll never forget this. And he is a mentor at the Steve Harvey show. He was speaking at a conference, and I was, I'm dropping the name again. Drop, right there. So, and I was talking to him, and I had introduced him during this conference and said some things about him, and he was like, you know what? And we had dinner, a group of us. I didn't have dinner with just him. But let me go on. Okay, let me cross my legs first. So we talked afterwards during dinner, and he says, you know what, you need to do like a podcast or something. He said, you need to do something where your face could be seen. Because I said, I like to talk, and sometimes, I do the shows, and I'm a mistress of ceremony at a lot of different events.
Ma'am.
And he was like, well, what's that? I want to serve eggs, sometimes it takes me a long time. So, so we were talking. But anyway, so he's the one that dropped it in my spirit that I should do something like this. And I thought about it for a couple years or so, and then, you know, I saw Kiki and I was like, I want to ask her, because she's always on the radio. How do you do this podcast thing? Got together with her, boom. Jerry is a relative of mine that I hadn't seen in years. I really never laid eyes on her. I knew who her father was. And I saw her on Facebook doing a radio show, and I said, Lord, this must be you, because that's a cousin. And I just talked to Kiki about this. You know, so we all got together. So this is how we started.
Mind you, I had never heard a podcast before, never listened to a podcast, didn't know
Me
what the
neither.
hell I was doing. And here we are. Thank God good. All right, so.
Won't do it.
Won't he do it?
Oh, yeah.
Really won't?
Really won't.
All right, so we have a, you know, with all the funny aside, we have a serious subject
Yes.
we're going to talk about. And this young lady emailed us, and you can too, at thehayrapodcast@gmail.com if you have a subject that you would like to talk about. And she said, why, we posted on social media, and I'll give you the handles later. Why don't we talk about sexual assault, rape, domestic violence, and failure of our justice system? And I was like, wow, why don't we just have you on the show? So please clap your hands for Miss Kimberly Fairley. In the intro last segment, we said she was the founder of Beauty and Brokenness. She's also an author for 144 Days. And she's going to talk more about that. She's also a public speaker and a host of the Christian television program on Cornerstone TV, Sister to Sister. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Make sure you speak into the mic because we need to hear everything. So you wanted to talk about these issues, the sexual assault, which a lot of us are talking about with the Me Too movement. I mean, but we are connecting that with celebrity.
Right.
So those actual cases are happening in the real world with real people who are standing at the bus stop, going to work, and being violated. So sexual assault, rape, which is different. These cases can happen, or these instances can happen during domestic violence relationships. Or without relationships. So, and then we're gonna wrap up, talk about the justice system or the failure of the justice system. Tell us your story.
So I had met this particular guy who was actually, unfortunately, the father of my second child. He's 2 years old. So I met him about 3 years ago. And we were working in the same building together. So we didn't work for the same company, we just shared the same space physically together. And at the time, I was already dating someone who was very respectful of that. So he never tried anything, he never tried to do anything. And as soon as I broke up with that guy, then he started to swoop in.
Yeah.
So prior to that, we were just having real conversations about my co-parenting, and I didn't realize at the time that he was always listening to me. He never talked, but he always listened to me. So then that turned into later him using things against me that I had said to him. But, once I broke up with that guy, like I said, he swooped in, and it was really hard, and this is why I wrote the book the way that I did, because the way that I met him was already under a troubling circumstance. So in the company that I worked for, there was an incident with my former supervisor or my former director, and their resolution was to move me. So they made me move from one neighborhood to the other, and that's where I met him, was working in the East Hills area. And so when he began to start forcing himself on me, I didn't realize that it was assault at the time, because he wasn't doing it in what I would consider to be an assault. I'm thinking of longer SVU, and that is always my reference for assaults, rape, those different situations. And so a guy who's being very charismatic and who's being very charming, that never once crossed my mind that this person was assaulting me, even when he was covering my mouth with his hand, when I would say, no, I don't want to do this. And so somehow, some way, I fell in love with this person. And I felt like he cared about me. He was helping me with, not co-parenting, but just giving me advice on my oldest child, who's 12 years old. And so I just thought that, he was really into me. He was beefing me up like I was someone that was worth it and I had value, and I really liked that. I will never forget, I actually became pregnant just around probably a couple days from my 30th birthday. So I remember going out that night, and someone was telling me, can you quit playing? If you keep on playing, you're going to get burnt by this fire. And I was like, yeah, because I think I already am pregnant. I'm not sure. Come to find out, I was pregnant with my 2-year-old Elijah. And it wasn't until after I gave birth to my son that I found out that he already had a partner, is what he calls her, his partner. And so then that's what made me want to separate from that relationship, because I didn't realize that I was the side chick.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that much confidence in myself, but I had enough confidence to know that I was not side chick material, and I didn't want to be in that position. And so despite him having her, and we all lived in different areas, so he was able to play all of us, or the both of us, because we all lived in different areas and we never crossed paths. So even in our professional lives, like, we never crossed paths, not once. In May of 2018, you know, I'm a Christian, and yes, Christians slip and we make poor choices all the time. I just decided for myself that I was going to pray and fast, because I didn't want that relationship, I didn't want that connection. I just wanted us to co-parent our son, and for this to be the one successful relationship that I had co-parenting a child. So here I am already struggling with this reality that I'm a Black woman. Now I have 2 children outside of marriage, and I didn't want to look like a statistic that anyone could see me as, with having multiple baby daddies and things like that. And so I remember praying and fasting, and for me, I literally felt it in my body that that connection was broken. And I was like, God, not going back. I'm good. We're done. I told him that. We had struggled with so many things, even child support. Like, at one point, I went through the system and put him on child support. He smooth talked the heck out of me, and I took him off and cleared the arrears, which was about $5,000 of arrears that he didn't pay, that I just cleared out. And then I ended up putting him back on because he wasn't paying after we did all of that. I mean, we just had so many different ups and downs. And I just told him around June of 2018, like, I just want to raise our son, and that's it. Between June and September, there were 4 different assaults. In the entire time, like, I'm not thinking that these are assaults, because he's being very charismatic, and he's being also very verbally, emotionally abusive. So there would be times when he would come to my house at 12 o'clock in the morning to have sex with me, but then he would say, nobody wants to touch you, nobody wants to fuck you. And I'm like, oh, well, what is it? Do you want to touch me? Do you not want to touch me? Like, I'm not sure what position I'm in with you. And so the hardest thing about it was my 12-year-old who has his headphones on. He was the one, out of all of the children, there's 3 children involved between the 2 of us, he was the one that was able to understand and hear the most. So he would hear the days when my youngest son's father would come and try to force himself on me, and he would successfully do it. And I couldn't scream because I didn't think that my son was hearing this. And I didn't want him to hear those different things. But he would sometimes get mad at me, and he would be like, Mom, I know that he's just coming over to have sex with you. My 12-year-old child was able to tell me those different things. And so I just tried my best to separate myself from him, and even got to the point where I told him, like, if you want to see your son, you can meet me at the police station, because I know how this is going to work, and I don't want to be involved in this situation. Unfortunately, he sued me for custody back in 2018, and when we did a child education seminar that day, he asked me to take him home, which I did, because I said that his license was suspended. So that's why I took him home, and I told him, like, we can be friends. I don't mind helping you, but, like, just the physical side of this, if you have her, be with her, just leave me alone. And he just wasn't willing to do that. And so I will never forget September 15th of 2018, being in his apartment. He took my cell phone off of me so I couldn't call anyone. And I just remember in the act, at one point, he had me on this bench that he had in his dining room area. And I remember while he was choking me, like, I saw the darkness in his eyes. And I wasn't sure, like, am I gonna die today? Because I just remember, like, stuff just started going white, and it got dizzy. And I was just like, I don't know what's gonna happen to me next. And so after he was done, he threw me a paper towel and told me to clean myself up. And after that, I cleaned myself up, got my phone, and I left. And I remember leaving from the steps of his apartment, and I looked up at him and I said, if you have a girlfriend, why won't you leave me alone? And then I just left. And even at that time, I didn't compute that I had been sexually assaulted. I was just like, well, that was different. He's never done that to me before. And so I talked to a few people, and they were the ones that convinced me, because I was never going to report this. This was the only time that he was violent, but in my mind, there were so many different reasons. Like, I had my little laundry list. He's the father of my child. If he gets put away, who's gonna help me raise this kid? How am I gonna be able to answer to my son later that this is what I did to his dad? Socially, he will destroy me, because socially he was more established than me, and I was in the process of building an organization. So if I build this organization, I come out and, like, I'll never forget, there were things that he did in his life personally that put him in the spotlight for what he did. And I remember reading articles and the way that people were responding to me. So here she goes, she's trying to take down another Black man. here she goes lying.
Wow.
There is no truth to what she's saying.
Self-blame.
She's just trying to attack him.
You and I had talked a little bit earlier before the show, and I was saying to you, and it was just, you know, I just had some questions, and I know people probably asked you this question. Now, what made it assault when you were with him several times before? I'm not trying to do victim shaming or blame or anything like that. You know what I mean? You were with him, and I asked you this. Was it something that? Did you feel some kind of way because you noted yourself as the side chick? So did that make you feel some kind of way? Rape is rape, and I get that. And I was talking to you earlier about, we had talked on the show one time about, what's his name, Matt Lauer.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was always a big Matt Lauer fan. And I had said, well, how, the woman said, he raped me. And I was like, well, how did you couldn't get out the room? Like, you went inside of the room with him. So,
What was the trigger?
what was, like, what happened? How did you know, or you were able to leave, not trying to shame you?
So that's the thing, it wasn't until after the fact that I even realized that there was something wrong with this.
Right.
So this had happened several times, like I said. I mean, like many of times our interactions was him forcing himself on me saying no, him covering up my mouth so that I couldn't scream, even if it was just my kid in the same space, just him doing those different things. It wasn't until after the fact that it just was that one time. So that one time he had pulled my hair at one point, he slapped me in my face, he was choking me. It wasn't until that time when I was like, something right about this one, like, and I just didn't know because I always knew that like I could be married 10 years down the road in a happy, healthy marriage.
Right.
And if he wanted it, he was gonna take it. And I just didn't know how to make it stop. And so that one time that he was that physically violent with me, that's when I was like, just something's not right about the way that you're interacting with me, and I don't know how much worse this is gonna get. So that was the time.
When you had gone to court, because this had ultimately gone to court with that, where was a question asked, just like I said, you know, what made it, or did he get off because you had been with him several times?
So that's the thing, it never went to court. The furthest that we got to court was when I filed for the PFA. The police advised me to do it, and I was like, he's not that violent, it was just this one time. But then when they said,
making excuses.
yes, I sure was. I was still trying to rationalize, because in my mind it wasn't that serious. And so when they told me to do it, I was like, I don't think it's that serious, and I still ended up doing it. And I will never forget my attorney telling me at that time that he had already had a charge on his record from 2012. In which he had thrown someone out of a moving car, another female out of a moving car. And so I would never forget the judge. I would never forget him asking me after I told him all the different details with 4 males in the room. He said, what was different? And I said, Your Honor, he choked me to the point I almost passed out. And he said, that's not how you guys conducted yourselves? And I said, Your Honor, he choked me to the point that I almost passed out. And I was very surprised that they even granted the PFA in the first place. And actually, it was never a PFA.
Why were you surprised?
Because that doesn't happen for women a lot of times.
Wow.
There were so many different parts of the PFA process. First of all, it wasn't a PFA, and it's not a PFA. It's a no contact order. Because he and his attorney convinced me that if it was a PFA, he couldn't work. And if he couldn't work, he couldn't help me raise our child. So I took that and not realizing that that wasn't the truth. So I accepted that to be the truth because I was just like, well, this is what they're telling me, I'm trusting this attorney, so this is what it is. So all it is a no contact order that says that this is when you can see our child and don't come here. That's it.
So what was the end story to ending that chapter and starting a new chapter where you are now prompted to write this book?
So that came from February 8th of this year. I was in the court building, and these are just days that I'll just never be able to forget. They had us in the hallway meeting about my case. It wasn't in a private room, we were in a hallway.
Yeah.
And I remember my attorney asking whoever the district or the assistant district attorney was, he said, wait, can we go to a private room? And it was an older white man. He looked at us and he said, if you're not happy with these conditions, we can just stop. And I was like, so I don't even deserve privacy for people that are passing not to hear the details of my situation? Like, that's not okay. And so they gave me 4 different reasons. You know, the fact that we had already had consensual sex at one point. They didn't think that they could pursue it in court. The fact that they had seen text messages on my phone that I would tell him, like, hey, you have this girlfriend, go with her. And I'd said her name a gazillion times, go be with her. And they said that his attorney would twist it in court to make it look like I was jealous of her.
Wow.
So there were so many different things that, like, in the interim, like, I thought that I was protecting myself, like, I'll go be with her, just, hey, remember her. And they said that that would all hurt me. And so on February 8th of this year was when they told me that they would not proceed with charges. And I remember just like that gut punch of like, I thought that I was going to pitch my story of trauma. Like, hey, this is why you should do it. And they were like, we were never gonna do it because we can't. And so-
Because you had a consensual relationship, was that basically it?
There were 4 different reasons. It was his partner that I had mentioned, the consensual relationship. There was also, so one other part of the situation is very key is that he had assaulted me before and I did report it. However, I recanted because he asked me to. And so he used that against me to say if she lied that time, she lied again. So they said that they would never be able to prove that in court, that he was asking me to do that.
So I don't, because there's so much to this story, but now we're looking at this book and we're looking at the after. What's the freeing feeling that you had, that you adopted in writing this book? There was something that you needed. I honestly believe, and I could be wrong, I honestly believe that we go through these things to help others.
Absolutely.
As hard as it is to admit it, as hard as it is to go through it, I honestly believe that there are things that a higher power puts us through for us not only to learn these lessons, but also for us to teach these learning lessons. So, you know, now you're at a point, I don't know if you're at the kitchen table, if you're looking at the babies, you're writing this book. What was freeing? What was the freeing process for you, if that makes any sense?
So the freeing process that day, we were leaving the courthouse. We came from the 4th floor to the 3rd floor, and I thought I was okay. And as soon as I put my foot on the 3rd floor step, I remember it felt like somebody just like sucker punched me, and like the wind was just knocked out of me. So I told my attorney, like, I just need a minute. I need to go to the bathroom and collect myself. And I stepped into the bathroom, and a woman was already praying in tongues when I was there.
Yeah.
And I just remember, like, as soon as I hit the corner of the bathroom, I just started bawling. And she's like, I remember you from the Hollander Project, and you were on TV. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. Don't recognize me. Like, I'm a mess right now. Like, just let me take this in. And so she looked at me. She wiped my tears. And she looked at me and she said, honey, this is your 3rd book. You're gonna go home, you're gonna write this from your mind, not your emotions, nothing else, just write this book, and this is going to be your bestseller. And so I started on February 9th, I finished it on Mother's Day of this year. And for me, this is my opportunity to give women a perspective. And so this is not every example of what it looks like to be sexually assaulted.
Right.
And I'm very, very wary of not using the word rape because to me, it's such a heavy word. And I don't know, like it took me, first of all, a long time to even accept the reality that I was sexually assaulted because even that is still a heavy word. Right. But just being able to give women a point of reference of what it can look like. Because a lot of times we look at that guy who's being very charming and very charismatic, and those are not the ones that are in the business suits. Like I love men's fashion so much, I love it. And we
like
look
David,
at
like Mr. David.
He's wearing that suit.
He's cute. He's wearing it.
So we look at
he bought that. Nobody bought that for him.
Say that one more time.
He bought that suit. Go ahead, Ms. Warehouse.
We look at guys like that, and we can't possibly think that guys that are so well put together could possibly commit such a horrific crime against a woman.
That's a disguise.
And so it is a disguise. And so just wanting to give women an aid, and then even men, to be able to understand that like this is what it felt like. Like I will never forget on February 8th of this year after I got home, I struggled with suicidal ideation, so I wanted to kill myself that day. It was because like I love my children more than anything in this world and I would do anything for them. But I told many people before I reported it, they're never going to believe me. Right. This is not going to work. And they're like, Kim, even if it doesn't work, you can get freedom and you can be empowering. And I'm like, but he's not going to be held accountable for what he did. And that's what I want is accountability. And I never got that from
Well, let me ask you this now. So the book is written. How many books? Is this One book, one of three, how many books are
Yes, this is my third book.
This is the third book, congratulations. So you not only being the storyteller, you're also the subject in the book, you are the main character. The position that you are in right now, because, we talked about this off mic, you know, after the paperwork has been filed, in most cases it's not. After the paperwork has been filed, after, you know, the good girlfriends go out to lunch, and, you know, we love you, girl, we praying for you. After the church family leaves, and I don't want to tear up. When that's all gone, and it becomes silent, like this room right now, how do you get through it? And, or, how can we, as a sisterhood, continue to help you, or help you continue to get through it?
One of the things, so in my full-time job, I am a therapist.
Well, thank God.
Thank God.
Yeah.
One of the things that I had to realize was that I needed help myself.
Right.
Because initially I was like, I don't need therapy, I'm good, I'm just gonna keep on moving on with my life, it is what it is, I have babies to raise. And I had to sit and I had to realize that I didn't want anything about this situation to be translated to my youngest.
Right.
So I never wanted to look at him one day and be like, you look like your dad, and then do something to him because you look like your daddy, and this is what your daddy did to me.
Yeah.
I love, and people tell me all the time that I favor my baby over my oldest. But as a community, one of the biggest things is not only believing women in this situation, but staying in contact with women that are in these situations. Because
Not just saying, oh, she looks good.
yes,
She looks happy. She
Right.
gained some weight. She looks
right,
good.
right. Because like one of the
We do
things
that.
we do, and one of the things that people don't realize like about my situation, and I literally thought about this today without even realizing I was gonna say this. I was thinking about the fact that like, so now there's a part of me that's grieving my relationship with him. So he was a friend first, and now we can't even co-parent effectively. We can't co-parent in a way that's beneficial to my son. So in order to deal with anything about our child, we have to go through attorneys or emails. I can't say, hey, our son had a pumpkin patch. Do you like this picture? Do you want these pictures for Christmas? Like, we can't talk about those different things and it be on a cordial basis because we have like this tension between us because I reported something that you did wrong.
But you still trust him with your son?
I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. Even whenever I asked for supervised visitation because I didn't know what he was capable of, the judge granted it. But I had to trust his family because there's not a system in place right now. So that's why the vision of my organization changed. Because there's not an organization in place right now that can provide that service for families. And so by the grace of God, I have not been murdered yet by this person, and I don't know what my reality is with him. But we still have to do exchanges 3 days a week. And people may look at me like sometimes when I exchange with my son, like tonight is an exchange. So when I exchange with my son, we do it at the Swissville police station. However, there's no comfort that we're at the Swissville police station because we would have to call if something did happen and wait for them to respond. And I can't tell you how many times I've called the Swissville police and told them, hey, he's late. I don't know if he's bringing my son back. I don't know what's going on. And sometimes I get the responses of, hey, we will do anything that we can to assist you. And then the same officer a couple days later might be like, well, here you go again. Like, what is it this time?
Why have we not advanced in this justice system? Why is it still this way?
Our justice system lost my PFA.
Lost it?
That's a part of the book. Whenever I called, I will never forget, it was right before my birthday, on September 25th, I called to make sure that the PFA was served. And the officer, I will never forget him telling me, well, ma'am, it's in the system. It wasn't served, but we don't know where it's at.
Wow.
And I said, this legal document that's supposed to protect me and my children and give proof that I have protection, you don't know where it's at. And it took them 3 hours to find that document. Our system is very flawed.
So have you lost family members? Have you lost friends over this situation?
No, I haven't lost family members or
What's your
friends.
support system like?
The biggest thing, so I wouldn't necessarily say that I've lost people, but I have let go of people. Because I've watched people that are still in support of him. So they'll repost his things, they'll support him with his different things that he's doing. And I'm just like, don't you not realize what he did to me and you're still supporting him?
Because in this day and age with social media, people attack you.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, like, do you get the attacks on social media?
So that's the thing,
Pittsburgh's not that big.
no one, unless someone is very close to me, no one knows who he is. If you read enough of the book, you'll probably figure out who he is because of just some of the details of the things that he did. However, I don't, and I didn't put his identity because I can't legally.
Right.
And the book is not about him. The book is about his behaviors and me highlighting that behavior that is present in a lot of males. This isn't just him. This is a behavior thing. And so my biggest disheartenment was just looking at people that, after I told them, I cried to them, and I let out my heart that this is what, like, almost made me kill myself. They still are supporting me and actively.
Yeah. I'm sorry, honey. We are like out of time. We need to invite her back.
You may have to.
We may have to invite you back because I want to talk more about the after effects and how there's so many questions. And we appreciate you so much for sharing your story. This is such a vulnerable subject, and we appreciate you just putting yourself out there and being an advocate for the voiceless, for being someone who cannot speak up or whose story may change. They may not have the outcome. They may not be allowed to write a book. So we're saying say thanks, or we want to say grace. What are we doing?
But we'd like to give a special thanks to the Executive Director, Janera Sullivan. Thank you. The Development Communication Director, Alana Darkin. The Kelly Strayhorn staff, everybody here. David Jones, Delonte Winters. Thank you. Urban Media Today, we thank you. And all the DJs,
Just one DJ. It's just one DJ. Miss Carrie, DJ Cold-Blooded.
Yes. Thank you so much.
I want to remind you that we have, I hope we can talk about real quick, because this is airing on Urban Media Today Radio. Just want to remind you, art show happening November 24th. It's a Sunday, 5 to 8 at the Natural Healing and Wellness Center. Go to our website, urbanmediatoday.com, to get the deets on that. I'm sorry. Do you have something to say?
I just want to make sure that we was going, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we can go. We can go.
Where is it? Okay.
Yeah, we can go.
I like we about to go to movies, about to get something, we want chicken wings.
Thank you so much for allowing us to be here. Our first year anniversary. Thank you so much for picking up her book. Stop Talking in the Foyer, where we are right now.
Oh, wait, where
can we pick it up?
So I have an author page. It's author Kimberly Fairley. You guys can reach out to me there. I only have physical copies of the book right now, so you can just come to me to get the book.
All right.
That's what's up.
This is Podcast, Urban Media Today. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Hey, girl, hey. The other day, Janera made a comment saying that Kelly Strayhorn Theater is a theater of verse, that we break little artists, that we take risks. So I was so excited when they said, this is our first live broadcast and their first anniversary. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. This is our theme. So we're so excited. Don't forget to join us for our last neighborhood happy hour at the end of the year. It is December 19th. It is our holiday party and bazaar. And if you haven't had a chance, if you just want one more time to say goodbye to Janera, she will be there. We'll have some special things for her. But be sure to join us here December 19th, 5 to 7. So mix and mingle. The KST lobby bar is still open, and we'll enjoy some music from DJ Cold-Blooded.